seed changes the atmosphere for them. Like if they're in a bad mood or they're angry or whatever, it's just a reminder of God's love and his promise. And that even if you're going through a storm right now, just believe just a little bit. It don't even take a lot. And that faith.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Harmonious Wealth. I'm your host, Iyanna Vaughn, and I have a very, very, very special guest, Ameka Coleman. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, yes. So, Ameka Coleman is the founder of Strands of Faith, a clean beauty brand focused on nourishing textured hair with cruelty free, high performance ingredients. As a mother and wife, Ameka is driven by her desire as a role model for her family and to promote self love and mental wellness. With a mission to end global texturism, Ameka empowers people to embrace their natural beauty. Inspired by her favorite verse, Philippians 4:13, she encourages others to overcome challenges and thrive with God's strength, helping others love themselves and their hair unapologetically.
Yes.
Unapologetically.
Yes, come through.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much for coming on, Ameka. Again, it's such a pleasure and an honor. How have you been this year? How has this year been treating you?
This year has been a year of growth, but more so personally. A lot of
Mm,
personal growth, a lot of just doing the work, that
yeah.
hard work, which affects everything business life, personal life, like every facet of your life. And so it's been good. So, personal side, personal growth, and then on the business side, it's been good as far as getting out of my shell, doing things that I never thought I would do, like pitching and all the things, but I can't complain.
I love it. What's so interesting is I'm a fan of your hair company, Strands of Faith, and with every package that you deliver, you have a mustard seed, like a literal mustard seed. And what's
Yes.
so interesting is I I it's like a mustard seed can grow so big and it's so
Yes.
small.
And it's so
Um,
small.
yes. And what's so interesting is you embody, like, in my mind, like someone who is true to like who you are. And then
Hmm.
also like through your branding and through your brand voice, I could see how much you love your customers and how much you want them to be impacted with their wellness.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
really stands true.
I
Tell us,
appreciate that.
yes, tell us a little bit about your brand, your company. How did you get started?
Whew, okay. Every time I get this question, like this loaded machine just pops up in my head because it feels so long and drawn out, but I'll try to keep a short answer. So, a few reasons I started Strands of Faith. More so on the product side, I wanted to create products that were effective, non toxic, that really were effective, for texture hair, dry texture hair types. But initially, I felt that certain textures were more glamorized and more represented in media and in terms of like products that were available to, like textured hair. And so I wanted to be on the forefront of that and like, okay, we're creating for you first. It's not like an afterthought. So that was
Mm,
very important for me. And then the main thing, I always say, even though we are a product company, we are product second, which is like, what? You sell products, you're product second? But we are just really purpose first. And for me, it was just about building a brand that was holistic and just uplifting your well being, your spiritual being, and just encouraging people to live their best lives and to keep going through life as tough as adversities and challenges, and just to keep the faith. Keep the faith. So, those are some of the main reasons why I started.
oh, that is so beautiful. With season two of Womanhood and Wealth, it's
Hmm.
like when you're growing a company, especially a product-based company, a lot of our audience, they are service-based, but to see I wanted to get some insight on how it was building your product-based business, especially being a wife and a mother. How has it been like harmonizing work and family through this?
It was challenging because, of course, in business, there's no roadmap, right? You figure it out and learn as you go. But the early years, it was mostly, I had young kids at the time. Like when we launched, my youngest daughter was one, and then I was she was one, maybe she was two, or then my son was one, and then I had two kids. I was pregnant throughout the journey, so that made it like wow, a lot more difficult because at the time I was fulfilling all of the beginning stages things, like the customer service. At that time, I was manufacturing and making the products myself in the kitchen. I was doing the marketing, like all the things, and so there's no such thing as balance when it comes to that when you're building a startup business and then trying to be there for your kids. And so I had to get to the point to where I was like, okay, let me show myself grace. I'm in a building stage. So something is kind of gonna forego time wise. And I had to understand it was just temporary. So in the beginning, a lot of it, my time was focused on the business and building the business. And so they were able to see the processes and the ins and outs, which was good because it kept me motivated because, as moms, a lot of what we do is for our kids.
Right.
But as we've progressed and grown along, I also realized that I don't want to be the parent that's so immersed in my work that I neglect their emotional and spiritual well-being. And so now I've come to the point to where I prioritize both, but at different times. So, full time, they
Mm.
get the full attention here, and I may have to forego things with work, and then work gets to. So it feels more of a balance, even though it's still not a balance. But yeah, it's just evolved over time, and with each season, I've just had to adjust.
Oh my goodness. So I'm sure like when it comes to like of course there's no such thing as balance. There's always some teeter-totter
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you were saying, right? What has been like your support system? How has your support system been like as you've been growing your company and nurturing your children? Like, oh my goodness, how is your support system personally?
Yes, that's a great question because even in that, the reason I was able to focus so much on the business early on was because of my husband. Like,
Mhm.
such a blessing, so invaluable. Like, I just can't put into words how much his presence and his help and support has really helped me to build, the brand to what it is today because I don't know, he's just an angel from heaven. Listen, he's always been like hands on with the kids, like pick them up, drop them off, help out with all of the essential basic things. And that helps to free up my time to do what I do. And so he is one of the main reasons why I've been able to do it. And like I would say, he's been the strongest support system, even up to today.
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you, it's so funny because this week he had a procedure done and he was down, so the roles kind
Mm.
of reversed, and so I dropped off, picked up, and I was still doing the business stuff. And it just really, I was always grateful, but it just took that gratitude up to a whole nother notch because I'm like,
Wow.
this would be my life trying to do both. Do you know how
Ooh.
quick it is to burn out trying to do both like
Yes.
that? Like
Absolutely.
you just like, so yeah, so in a nutshell, that's he's been such a blessing, such a blessing.
That is beautiful because God like definitely gives you different lessons. Like
Yes.
it was a lesson to kind of see like he knows you appreciate your husband,
Yeah.
but he was like, "All right, let me just do a little let me add a little more gratitude in there."
And he did that.
What does your support look like in the business these days?
So early on, starting out, it was a lot of, me doing everything. And, you always hear, you got to delegate, you got to delegate. And at times, that was very hard for me because in the beginning, because I think working through my personal traumas that I've dealt with on the personal side, everything goes hand in hand and correlate. Like what you deal
Mm.
with personally is going to impact your business and show up there. And I don't want to say I didn't trust people, but it was very hard to delegate to where I was completely hands off because it
Mm.
just felt, I don't know. I had a block. I had a block there, but I had to overcome those blocks, identify, call it out for what it was, and then work through them. So over time, I've been able to build my team, and that's been super great because they've taken, a lot of the things that I was doing that was mostly hands on that was causing me to be the bottleneck. They've been able to, take that off my plate so that I can kind of show up more in other ways. And so that has been amazing. And I'm just so super grateful, for my team and for just putting in the help, you know what I'm saying, in the work that they do. So Super
Hmm.
grateful.
Yes. I was just a couple months ago I was watching your live with your rebrand. Everyone, we'll link it in the show notes. Like please watch because it's so inspiring and you sharing overcoming trauma or overcoming your personal stuff overall,
Mm-hmm.
as a business owner is going to be essential
Mm-hmm.
because whatever you didn't deal with in your personal life
Yes,
is going to show up in your business.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like a big spotlight. Yes. But the beautiful thing is you now have a testimony to share with others
Mm-hmm.
and you shared it throughout the live so that it's so inspiring again because we don't talk about those things in our
Mm-hmm.
businesses. We think we're the only ones that have gone through certain
Yeah.
things and it's
Yeah.
like I also link it to like your attachment style. Like certain things happen in your life and it creates your attachment style and it
Mm-hmm.
shows up in how you operate in business and also how you operate with your money.
Yes.
Um, so it's like
Very true.
when you mention, you having a hard time trusting people, I could definitely understand. What
Mm-hmm.
was what does your team look like today? Like you mentioned that you have support in your team, but what
Mm-hmm.
does that look like as far as like your typical work week, like navigating where you are now?
Yeah. So actually, one of my customer service reps, she's been with us for about 3 years. And we actually just brought her in house probably about 2 weeks ago. So I'm super grateful and
Really?
excited
Yeah.
about that. Yes. And so she's actually going to be heading like different projects that we had. We were brainstorming yesterday. So I'm able to kind of like let her do her thing with that. And that's the
Mhm.
thing, which is ironic because even though I had trust issues back then, one thing about me, I'm never like a micromanager. And that was another thing. I give tasks to people and then I expect them to just get it and know how to do it without me having to micromanage. But I realized too in business that you have to set people up for success. You have to train them. You have to have certain
Mm.
SOPs because not everybody's going to come in with the same level of understanding as your business. Then when things aren't kind of like panning out as you think, you're thinking as a CEO, well, why did this go? And it's like you didn't set them up for success, you know? So
Mm.
having her there to do that is great. We have our shipping because we do in-house shipping. We still do in-house manufacturing. We have Nene. She's our, she led the live, our Facebook
Mhm. I
group
love her
manager.
energy.
Yeah, yes. And then we just have contractors who we contract out here and there for various needs. So we're still small and lean, but mighty. I know sometimes people look at us and they think we have a much more vast team, but I'm very like resourceful and try to do the most with what I can. So that's us.
That is so good. And staying lean, definitely helps kind of like retain camaraderie with the company and then
Yeah.
also like helps you be able to be agile like whenever you need to pivot in your
Yes.
business for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, what were some pivotal moments as you were growing your business? What helped Strands of Faith grow to the business and where you are today?
You know, that's a really good question because, and I don't know if this is where my mind is right now, but
Yeah.
every single time, like everything goes back to the personal side, you know? And I think
Mm,
for me, overcoming limiting beliefs, pushing myself out of my comfort
mm.
zone, all of those things help because for reference or like an example, 15 months ago, you wouldn't have caught me dead on a stage pitching in front of
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Like I was very shy. I'm introverted, but I was very, very shy growing up, which, stem from traumas and things. But I just didn't have confidence and to get up and speak in front of people, I just would have froze. And now here I am doing it. But that came as a result of doing the work. And again, it transitioned over. And so I think when I did the work on myself, it just started to show up there. And that's where the leaps happen. And
Mm.
so yeah, so it's not some like answer where it's directly like business related. It's
Right.
like my stuff is always going back to like the inner work. Cause
Right.
I was so messed up, okay? And I'm still on my healing journey day by day. I'm still learning, And so yeah, it's never ending.
Right. And it's like That's the beauty of growth, right? And the beauty of being ministered to by
Mm.
God. Like you're able to, He's going to find one thing because the way He sees us, He wants us to be able to see ourselves in that way.
Yes.
So it's like you were saying, as you were working on yourself, you're starting to see yourself as God sees you. And through that, you're able to like share and show, show yourself and be able to face your challenges. So that's so beautiful to see.
And it's reaffirming you said that because I made a post a video yesterday, and that's one of the exact same things that I said in the video. Yes, I said that, how God sees us and like the plans that He's always had for us. Like we can't see ourselves in that when we're in our traumas or we're in the valleys. Like when we're low, it's we
Mhm.
we don't have the eyes to see, but He has already developed that. And so now I've been taking a journey slowly to where I'm almost at His eye level to see me how
Mm.
He intended for me to be, how He intended for me to feel, how He created me to just live, to walk in my purpose. I'm finally coming into that and seeing that. And that's what He wanted all along. And so I was just saying that even though I went through those storms and things, I look at it now as a refinement process that I had to go through to get to this point. Because if I hadn't gone through all those things, would I have a testimony? Would I have this great appreciation for the love of God and how He shows up? So that was it just gets me worked up and excited because it just goes to show how good He is, and how He's just so faithful. So yeah.
When you mentioned that, I was making a point when I said the mustard seed
Yeah.
because at that time I was not a Christian. And I was like, this is an interesting concept. And so now that you mentioned that, it kind of bridged the gap because I was going somewhere with it, but it seemed like I wasn't. But when I got it, I was like, it literally was a mustard seed, right?
Yeah,
Because
yes.
a lot of my clients are Christian, right? Or they, are women of faith.
Yes.
And different things are planted, right? And when you are shown, like you are someone I believe is like a light, like a beautiful soul shining your light
Thank
and
you.
like showing like the love of God through you caring for others.
Hmm.
So you giving that to someone, it's like you don't know what that person on the other side receiving it is, how
Yes.
that's going to play out. And now that
Yes.
I read the word and I've like seen scripture about a mustard seed with faith of a
I love that. That is so amazing.
So what kind of brought you to like have that idea? Because it's like imagine like the impact that you're having when you're
Yes.
delivering your products and you're delivering that as well.
Yes, and you pretty much summed it up. Like the whole idea of the mustard seed was to give people like hope when they see that little seed, no matter what day they're having. Yeah, they may be excited to get their products and see their products, but that of a mustard seed is just move mountains. And so that was the idea, and like the stories that I've received throughout the years of the impact of just that seed. Like people collect them. Like I've seen pictures. I think someone had like 32 packets that they collected over
Ooh.
time. I've had a story of a young lady. She was experiencing mental health issues to where she was admitted to a facility. And she requested for them to bring her seed. And that was what calmed her spirit. And so hearing those stories, it just never ceases to amaze me, and it gives me so much joy because like you say, it's a mustard seed, but it is planting a seed in someone's life. Like even if you, and like I told you, I never knew that you weren't like a Christian. I never knew. But just imagine someone receiving that seed and they're not a Christian, is still planting a seed because it gets you to get curious. And then sometimes that's all God calls us to do, is plant the seed, and He'll take the rest in the, divine time and purpose. So yes.
I'm speechless. My goodness, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful that you were like the impact that it has given to those, especially the young lady that you spoke about. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yes.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I know you talked, so I've seen on your Instagram that you've been receiving a lot of grants and recognition. You talked about you've been working on yourself these past 15 months. What has that been like pitching yourself to get grants? Like what is that journey like?
Oh, Man, it is. Well, initially it was overwhelming. It was anxiety filled, imposter syndrome, which, I still get to this day and I work through. But it was a lot because I was stepping into a person that I had never seen before. I had never been before. It was all new to me. And so my very first pitch competition was virtual. And it's so funny when I look back and contrast because I was like this. Hello, my name is Ameka Coleman, and my business is this. And because I was so nervous, no personality, just bland. Um, but I did end up placing in that and received $5,000. And so I think when you have impact and mission brand and you have goal for things, that's the first thing. So that can go fur on its own. But then when you add all the other elements like the passion and you show up, that takes it up a notch. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And I've just looked back and just can't believe how far, God has brought me. I shared this on social too. One of my friends was asking me, like, how do I prepare for public speaking? How did I prepare to get on the stage and speak, with the grants? And question led to me going back to an application that I applied for because that question popped in my head at that moment. And the question was their particular application came with like a $5,000 business education award or something like that. And so they're asking you how are you going to use it. And I said something to the tune of, I'm not very confident in my speaking, but I know that communication is the key to getting awareness and visibility on your brand. So I will use this money to hire a pitch coach because I believe that if I invest in this pitch coach, this $5,000 will return a 20x investment and I will win 100K in grants. That was in September of last year. When I looked at that 2 weeks ago, since then, it not only would have 20x but 40x. So since then, I've won over 225,000 in grants. So it's just amazing to see. It was just a lesson. So many lessons in that for me, but like writing a vision, making it plain. I was speaking it. I don't even know if I was. I mean, I believed it to a certain extent, but I don't even know if I believed it wholeheartedly at that time. But that's what I wrote, and it came to pass. So it's just been a beautiful journey.
That is so beautiful. I think of like the term in scripture, like beauty for ashes and like double for your trouble. Okay. You said,
That's
okay,
crazy.
what about I double what you thought?
Yes, exactly. Yes. And you thought, but hey.
Wow, that is so, so good. Oh goodness, because then, when it comes to grants or like when doing these types of things, especially for your type of business, it's like now you can have a peace of mind and not go into so much debt in business because a lot of times we bootstrap, we'll get into debt,
Mhm.
we'll have all
Mhm.
these things, but
Mhm.
then we're so afraid to pitch ourselves in grant competitions. It's like, okay,
Yes.
how can we, navigate those things?
Yes.
So it's great that you're able to kind of lead the company in this way. And then also work on yourself and, being able to go beyond. So that is so beautiful.
Yes.
And then
Thank
you're
you.
and with this, I'm sure you're influencing your children. How has your journey been influencing your family?
Yeah, so the kids, they all know I'm an entrepreneur. Early on, they used to help like package orders and be hands on, especially when we were at the house.
Hmm.
And so now, they ask questions here and there, but I think the most important lesson in this is the modeling, them seeing, just the act of being and them seeing. Like Olivia asked me the other day, she was like, Mama, do your products work for this hair, this? And she was like, well, I have a friend at school and I think she can use them. And so she, what I'm saying, she's aware of like what it is I do. And like, she even, advocates
Right.
unintentionally. She don't know.
Not you trying to get commission.
Maybe that's what I need to tell her. If you
Right.
sell some of these products, you get some commission. And we're gonna put
Right.
this in your what is it, the 529? We're gonna put this
Right.
somewhere over there for you. And so yeah, so no, they've been great because Olivia, she's the only girl, and then three boys. And so the boys are more so just like observers, but I try to teach them lessons. One thing I do is if like let's say for instance I take business lessons and turn it into personal lessons for them. So like for instance, one pitch
Mm.
competition, I didn't progress through. And so I was feeling down about it. So I was like, asked Olivia, I said, Olivia, I applied for this pitch competition and I didn't get through. It was either a pitch competition or a grant. But I made like top 10. I didn't advance to the like top. And so I said, I feel sad. Like, what would you do, or how should I feel? And she was like, well, you should just be grateful that you made the top 10. She said that's still an accomplishment. And I'm like, yes, girl, yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm teaching her that mindset so that she can adopt it. And when, things come for her way, I mean, you're not going to win everything in life. And so I think if she had that mindset of resilience, it's going to help her. And so that's kind of how I use my entrepreneurship lessons and, translate it over to her or to them, as it, see fit. So yeah.
That is so brilliant because I don't share too much, but it's like that is such a great way to bring your kids in. Is like
hmm
really because one thing, right? I'm sure like growing up, you see your parents and you might think they're not, they're cool, they don't have anything wrong or they're not expressing their feelings, right?
Exactly. Yes.
But you sharing that you're sad at this moment and asking her for advice, that puts her in a position to have that confidence like, oh,
Exactly. Yes. And that's exactly it, cuz she lights up like, "Wow, you care enough to think about my opinion." And then after she give me an opinion, I just pump her up like, "Yes, girl, that's amazing. Oh, you made me feel so much better by that response." And then just to see her little lips go up, and she doesn't know I'm doing this intentionally, but later in life, I hope to leave that with her. She'll say, my mom was intentional in building me up because at the end of the day, that's the foundation, Yeah.
that definitely blessed me. Ladies, if you're listening, parents, if you're listening, invite your kids on the journey. Like you don't have to tell them exactly what's going on.
Right.
Bring up scenarios. Like this is
Yes.
beautiful. I'm gonna use it.
Please do.
How old is Olivia now?
She's 9, fourth grade.
That is such a fun age. Like
Yes.
9 and 10 is like because they have like their ideas of life and like they're getting a little older and like they
Yes.
so emotionally intelligent at that age. So that is
Yes.
such a beautiful age.
Yes.
Now, are the children you mentioned that they were doing a lot of like packaging
hmm
and things like that. Are they involved now in the business?
Not so much because now I think at the time, since we were in the house, now we're in a warehouse.
Mhm.
So, they have school hours and stuff. And so I try not to work after hours there. I try to be here at home with them. So not so much as far as hands on. And so that's why I
Mhm.
had to get creative with those lessons and try to figure out, to still keep them in a mix. But yeah, so I think what was it the other day? I think my son or somebody asked me, was I a boss? Like, Mom, are you a boss? I'm like, I I don't I mean, boss feels so weird to me just because of like the connotations throughout the years. And so it was kind of hard for me to be
Mm,
like, yeah, I'm a boss, but I don't see, but for his understanding, I'm like, yeah. So
technically.
they recognize, yeah.
Yeah, that is so funny. For so long, my daughter thought I was like a beekeeper. Like she, because she couldn't pronounce bookkeeper, but now she
Oh, that's so
understands.
cute. Ayanna the beekeeper. Oh,
I know,
that's
right? Like what
cute.
is
That's cute. They're so innocent.
yes. What advice, when it comes to harmonizing business and family, what advice do you have for like emergent entrepreneurs or even established entrepreneurs on like how to harmonize both of those things versus like thinking you need to balance it?
Let's say put yourself first wholeheartedly. I know everybody used the example of the whole plane and put your mask on first and then help the person next to you, but that is the most simple explanation that's true and that works because when you focus on yourself and make sure you're good, then you can be
Mhm.
all that you need to be for all the people around you. I'm also a recovering people pleaser, so I've
Mhm.
lived the majority of my life extending myself to others first, leaving
Mhm.
myself last, and then I'm on empty and I'm unfulfilled, and it just was not good for my mental. And so now I'm like, if somebody don't respect it or if I lose people because I'm putting myself first in a healthy way, then those people weren't meant to be there, you know? And I have to mind my business, like what goes on
Okay.
here so
Right.
that, I can show up in that way. So yeah, I would say take care of yourself first. Um, and then from there, be a beacon for others, help,
Mm,
serve in all the ways you can. I think that's the piece too that gives me the most joy, which is why I've started my Grow with Ameka page because it's just sharing lessons that I've been through and just encouraging other people on their journey. And so that business and personal and harmonizing it, you just have to, it's not going to be the same for everybody. I think it involves someone getting crystal clear and super honest with themselves, looking themselves in the mirror, digging deep, all the ugly things, bring them to the top, and deciding to work on it, deciding what are your goals in 5 years? What is it going to take for me to get here? And then piece by piece, breaking it down so that you have a really good chance of reaching those goals when you get there.
mm.
So, planning and preparation, I would say for emerging and established, because I mean, the 6 years considered established. I feel like that's still early,
I think
but but yeah. So that's the process I'm using, and I think it works. And so that's what I would tell others.
I love that. Now, for those who are wanting to create a product-based business or have like some products within like their business, what
Mhm.
would be like your advice to getting started with product-based businesses?
Ooh, okay. Product based businesses and the advice a few years ago compared to now would have been slightly different. But in general, for
Mhm.
product based businesses, I would say don't just create a product you're passionate about. Create a product that has a demand that people want to buy, not something you have to create and then force or educate people heavily on, in order to buy. So that would be the first thing, just that market research and that validation. Once you have that, after that is all awareness, which
Mm,
is proven to become more difficult these days with the algorithm changes and with everything. And so
mhm,
you have to have a product that can kind of weather the storm. And
mm,
then also, I mean, even in that process, I'm learning, I'm having to get out there more and to show up more. Whereas in the beginning, I hid behind the scenes because I was more of a behind the scenes person.
right.
But when you create a product in mind, you have to think, how much are you willing to show up, plan it, and if you know you're not somebody who's going to be in the camera or who's sharing your story, then you have to get a team or some people on board, to help that. I think the more you kind of like foresee the future instead of just jumping in cold,
Mm,
the better prepared you'll be and the more success you can have with a product-based business, because it is, I think, now I'm biased, I think product based business is one of the harder business models because there's so many moving pieces,
mm,
to it. And
mm,
so just create a product that you're passionate about, but that has validation. That's what I would say.
mm. So that's great advice because I feel like, again, a lot of people listening may have services, but it's like they
Mhm.
may have been interested in a product in the future. So it was good to know, like, not only should it come from your passion, but it needs to be like, okay, do we need this?
Exactly. Because I've heard people who started service and then they get into product and they assume that the flow and ease was going to be like, I mean, service is hard, any business is hard,
Right,
but
right.
they assumed that the flow is going to be the same, and then they got into product and was like, this is a whole total different beast. And I
Hmm.
think service providers should do products, like, for
Mm,
instance, there's a lot of beauticians lately who are trying to start their own product lines, and sometimes when I'm mentoring and giving advice, I just be like, you have to, when you're doing this, if you're just trying to add it to your line for your customers to come in, yeah, that can be extra revenue. But if you're trying to grow this into another brand, then that's a whole different type of strategy. So just knowing your end goals, and then kind of like planning around it accordingly.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is such great advice because, um, to your point, ideally, with those types of businesses or salons, a good chunk of it should be coming from product, but then people are so used to
Mm-hmm.
doing service, and it's like, okay, how do there's like different brain spaces to sell a
Yes,
service versus a
yes,
product.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes. And then speaking of that, right? Like when we think of having a product based business, what advice would you give those who are starting to like secure funding or grants, like if they're just beginning? Because I think we all think we should be bootstrapping, which is, to a certain extent, but it's like, what
Yeah.
if we could not work as hard for this?
That's a good question. And man, I feel like I've been through every cycle of this because my mindset initially when I started my business was, oh, I'm going to bootstrap my business, but I don't want zero debt. I want a debt free business and I want to grow and da da da. And then when I started growing the business, when you get to a certain point of scale, you realize, okay, that ain't, what I'm saying, what it's cracked up to be. And I started learning about the concept of OPP, others people money, using other
Right.
people's money to help, with your venture. And so for me, I didn't get my first grant until year 4.5 years in. I got my first grant.
Mm,
Now, okay, two parts. The landscape is different now because when I first started, there weren't many grants. When the George Floyd situation happened in 2020, a lot of people came on board and was supporting, minority-owned businesses and things like that. So more opportunities.
mm,
But when I started applying for the grants, it was me realizing that I needed to utilize other people's money instead of kind of like using my own.
yeah.
And so that process looks like, first of all, they're very competitive too. And they're like a whole full time job. They feel like a full time
Yes,
job.
yes. I can
but
imagine.
but I would just filter through the grants that mostly aligned with the funders goal in comparison to like my business. And then from there I would apply, and then over time I was able to tweak my application to be better and better, because when you're writing a grant versus like pitching,
Mm.
totally different process. And so it's been, yeah, that's a learning process in itself, and you learn yourself a lot more because you have to get very concise with your business, your goals, your mission. What are you trying to accomplish? Like, you can't just be winging it. You really have to know. And so that's kind of like forced me to get that level of precision. But you asked me something else about the grants.
Just tips on how to get started and
Oh
how to
yeah,
get
tips on
there.
how to
Yeah.
get started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It can just be simple, very simple.
yeah, very simple. Okay. Because my analytical brain was
Right.
like, let me spill it
That's a
all out.
whole different episode,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, so I would say simple is, yeah, just finding grants that are in alignment. Read the guidelines to ensure that you're within the parameters. If it says a 60-second video, don't submit a 80-second. You want to do whatever you can to have a best chance of moving forward to their next phase. Um, Write out clearly your mission, your goals, who you are, like what type of company you are, what's your competitive advantage, what are your plans for even future scale? If you are just starting, what are your, like, what traction have you had? It doesn't have to be in revenue. It can be in social media growth.
Mm.
It can be in email signups, pre-order type of thing. So you just want to show that you have some tractions and that you are not just asking for money and haven't done some type of work yourself. So those are a few that I can think of off the top of my head
No,
without
those
going deep.
no, those were great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, what legacy do you hope to leave with Strands of Faith for both the company in itself and also your family?
I think the legacy that I would like to leave goes back to our mission always, which is to end global texturism. I want people maybe in 2050 to, when they see someone, and I mean, it's in line with colorism, texture. But first of all, I don't think I've explained texture. That's explain texturism or no?
You didn't. Yo, let's not make the assumption that all of our readers know what that is.
Okay, okay. Okay. So texturism is basically a hair type discrimination where certain hair types are seen as more glamorous or desirable than like kinkier texture like mine. When historically hair like mine has been seen as unkempt, just not presentable, unprofessional, that type of thing. not going off too far on a tangent, but that's why the Crown Act law needs to be in existence, is because they're advocating for that in the workplace. People who've been discriminated in that regard. So we want to dismantle texturism. We want people to see like you and your beautiful strands. Your hair is absolutely beautiful, you know? You're welcome. And then, when people look at my hair, they should be able to have the same sentiment, not to look at someone and say, oh, basically judging them prematurely based or their abilities or their talent or their experience based on how their hair looks. So we just want everybody to look at people and know that texture hair is beautiful. It should be celebrated. And all of us are different. Like our hair is like fingerprints. We all have different fingerprints. It's unique. So that's our overall goal. And that's what I want to be known for on a business side. And then on a personal side, I just want to leave the legacy with my kids that my mom showed up for me. She really loved me. She instilled values and morals in me that I can take with me as I grow throughout life. And so, yeah, that's what I want to leave for them.
I love it. First of all, your hair is beautiful. Your hair is gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
And what's so interesting with that is because I cut my hair in 2016 because I wanted my daughter, my hair was like heat damage, and I wanted my daughter like love her curls.
Yes.
And you can't tell her nothing. Don't tell her nothing. And just for context, as people, we all, like you said, have our hair is like a fingerprint. It's all different.
Yes.
So my
Mm-hmm.
daughter's hair is different than mine. It's so like so beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and her having that confidence within her is amazing. And I
Yes.
love how you include all hair textures, and you're really like leaning towards making sure that everyone knows that their hair is beautiful no matter what. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
So final question, what is your idea of harmonious wealth?
Okay, so my idea of harmonious wealth is, now I know the caveat to this. I know I said earlier that there's no such thing as balance, but here I would
Mm,
probably say, yeah, I would say it's a balance between emotional, mental, spiritual wellness, financial wellness, having all of those areas balanced in your life so that nothing is out of sync and just allowing yourself to show up fully. I think when all those things are interconnected, it allows you to closely walk to your purpose, like lacking nothing. Like you'll never be perfect, but you will be perfect in your world because you're living up to your true self. And so I think, many times in my life when one of those things were like lower or just non existent, that's when the turmoil and the strife like showed up. But now I feel like there's a balance in all of those things. And so, yeah, for me, harmonious wealth is a balance in every emotional aspect. Like it's not just financial, like it's not just material possession. I know we always want to go to finances, and money is so important. Like abundance is important because that's how we do good in the world, but it can't just be that. The emotional, spiritual aspect, all of that have to exist too. So that would be my idea of harmonious wealth.
that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation, Amika.
Yes, it has. Thank you so much.
Yes. Where can people find you?
Yes, so you can find personal Ameka Coleman on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and on the business Strands of Faith on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yes, and www.strandsoffaith.com is our website.
Yes. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Harmonious Wealth. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.